They were once the most powerful family in Russia, wealth, royalty, and a divine right to rule. But in one horrifying night, the Romanovs were gunned down in a dark basement, betrayed by their own nation. This is the story of how Tsar Nicholas II, his wife Alexandra, and their 5 children, Olga, Tatiana, Maria, Anastasia, and Alexei, were executed by Bolsheviks in 1918. Why did Russia turn on its royal family? What really happened in that basement? And could one of the Romanov daughters have survived? Stay with us to uncover one of the most shocking crimes in history. Comment your thoughts below as the story unfolds. Did justice prevail, or was this just brutal murder? In the early 1900s, Russia was ruled by Tsar Nicholas II, the last emperor of the Romanov dynasty. The Romanovs had been in power for more than 300 years, guiding Russia through centuries of change. Nicholas II believed strongly in the divine right of kings, the idea that God had chosen him to rule Russia, but the world around him was changing fast. Nicholas II was married to Alexandra Fyodorovna, a German princess who became Tsarina of Russia. Together they had 5 children, 4 daughters, Olga, Tatiana, Maria, Anastasia, and 1 son, Alexei. The family was very close, and Nicholas and Alexandra were devoted parents. However, their youngest son, Alexei, was born with a serious illness called hemophilia. This disease caused his blood not to clot properly, and even small injuries could be life-threatening. The family's worry for Alexei deeply affected their lives. The Romanovs lived a life of luxury in grand palaces like the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg. They were surrounded by wealth, servants, and fine art. But outside their palace walls, Russia was a very different place. The early 20th century was a time of unrest in Russia. The country was mainly agricultural, and most people were poor peasants working hard just to survive. There was great inequality. The rich were very rich, but the poor lived in harsh conditions. Many Russians wanted change, inspired by new ideas about freedom, equality, and democracy. Nicholas II's rule was criticized for being out of touch. Many blamed him for Russia's problems, including the country's defeat in the Russo-Japanese War, 1904-1905, and the heavy losses during World War I. His refusal to share power with elected leaders angered many people. In 1917, after years of protests and war hardships, the Russian Revolution began. Nicholas II was forced to abdicate the throne, ending centuries of Romanov rule. The royal family was arrested and taken into custody. They were first moved to the Alexander Palace, and later to the more remote Ipatiev house in Ekaterinburg. While imprisoned, the Romanovs' once grand life was reduced to small rooms, guarded by armed soldiers. But even in captivity, the family tried to hold on to hope and each other. Among the public, rumors and legends started to grow. One famous myth was that Anastasia, the youngest daughter, had escaped the execution and was living in secret. This story captured imaginations worldwide, inspiring books and movies, even though it was never true. The Romanov story is not just about power and politics. It is about a family caught in a storm of history, a family with hopes, fears, and love, facing a tragic end. After Tsar Nicholas II was forced to give up the throne in 1917, the Romanov family's life changed completely. From rulers of a great empire, they became prisoners. They were moved to a remote town called Ekaterinburg and kept in a small, unremarkable building known as the Ipatiev house. Inside these cold walls, the family lived under constant guard. Their days were filled with fear, uncertainty, and loneliness. Guards watched every move, and the family's freedom was gone. Nicholas, once an emperor, was now a quiet man. He spent much of his time reading and writing letters he hoped would explain his side of the story. Alexandra, his wife, was deeply worried, especially about their son Alexei, who grew weaker because of his hemophilia. The children, Olga, Tatiana, Maria, Anastasia, and Alexei, tried to stay hopeful. They played simple games and cared for one another, but they knew they were prisoners. They missed their old life, their friends, and the beauty of the palaces where they once lived. During their captivity, the political situation in Russia was very unstable. The Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, had taken control. They believed the old royal family was a danger to the new government. To them, the Romanovs symbolized the past, a time of inequality and oppression that the revolution wanted to end. Many Bolsheviks feared the Romanovs could be rescued by enemies of the revolution or become a rallying point for counter-revolution. This made their fate very uncertain and dangerous. Despite the harsh conditions, some guards showed moments of kindness. The family was allowed small freedoms, like walking in the garden or receiving gifts. But the atmosphere was tense. No one knew what the future held. One lesser-known fact is that the family secretly held religious services and celebrations in the house, trying to keep their spirits alive. Alexandra, a devout woman, often turned to her faith for strength during these difficult times. Outside the house, rumors began to swirl. Some people believed the family might be freed or saved by loyalists. Others whispered stories of secret escape plans, especially about Anastasia, the youngest daughter. These rumors captured the public imagination and inspired many tales, though none were true. The truth was grim. The new Soviet leaders decided that the Romanovs had to be removed forever. The stage was set for a tragic and final act, one that would end the Romanov dynasty and leave a lasting mark on history. In the early hours of July 17, 1918, a dark and terrible moment unfolded in the basement of the Ipatiev house. The Romanov family, Tsar Nicholas II, Tsarina Alexandra, their 5 children, and loyal servants, were about to face their final fate. The Soviet leaders saw the Romanovs as a threat to the revolution. They feared that the family might be rescued by enemies, or become symbols for those who wanted to bring back the monarchy. So, they made the grim decision to end the family's lives. That night, the family was told to gather in the basement. They believed it was for a simple photo. Tsar Nicholas II stood tall and calm, while Alexandra held her youngest son Alexei close, trying to protect him from the harsh reality they were about to face. The children, Olga, Tatiana, Maria, Anastasia, and Alexei, clung to each other, frightened but brave. Their loyal servants, including the family doctor and their faithful attendants, were with them, ready to share their fate. Suddenly, gunfire broke the silence. The executioners were Bolshevik soldiers who had been ordered to kill the entire family. The shooting was brutal and chaotic. The hemophiliac Alexei, weak and fragile, was carried by his mother, who tried to shield him from harm. Despite the violence, the family showed courage. Nicholas tried to protect his wife and children. Alexandra refused to leave her son's side. The daughters comforted each other and tried to stay strong. The execution was not quick or clean. Some family members were shot multiple times, and when some survived the initial gunfire, the killers used bayonets and bullets to finish the horrific task. Afterward, the bodies were loaded onto a truck and taken to a secret location. The killers tried to hide the evidence by burning and burying the remains in a shallow grave far from the city. For decades, the truth of the execution was hidden by the Soviet government. Many rumors spread, especially about Anastasia. Some claimed she had survived and escaped, fueling books, movies, and endless speculation. But DNA tests many years later proved that all the Romanov family members were killed that night. The murder of the Romanovs shocked the world. It was a brutal end to a royal family and a dramatic symbol of the violent changes sweeping across Russia and the world in the early 20th century. When news of the Romanovs' execution finally reached the world, people were shocked and saddened. The brutal killing of Russia's last royal family marked the end of an era and sent ripples through Europe and beyond. In the West, many remembered Tsar Nicholas II as a symbol of a disappearing monarchy. Though his reign had flaws, his death was seen as a tragic loss. Leaders and citizens alike expressed sadness for the family's fate, especially for the children who had died so young. Newspapers around the world reported the story with disbelief. The idea that a royal family could be killed in such a brutal way was almost unimaginable. Some called it a necessary act of the revolution, while others saw it as a crime against humanity. In Russia, the story was very different. The Bolshevik government tightly controlled the news and portrayed the Romanovs as enemies of the people. They justified the execution as a way to protect the new Soviet state from threats and foreign intervention. Despite the official story, rumors began to spread. One of the most famous was that Anastasia Romanov, the youngest daughter, had escaped. Stories told of secret hiding places and daring escapes. These rumors grew so strong that many imposters claimed to be Anastasia in the years that followed. The mystery of Anastasia captured imaginations worldwide. Books, plays, and movies were inspired by the idea that one of the Romanov children survived against all odds. This legend remains popular even today. For decades, the truth about the family's fate was hidden by the Soviet government. The bodies of the Romanovs were buried in secret, and many important documents were kept classified. It was only after the fall of the Soviet Union in the 1990s that the remains were discovered and identified using modern scientific methods. Today, the story of the Romanovs' death is a reminder of a violent and changing world. It shows how power can be lost, and how history can be shaped by fear, politics, and tragedy. The Romanov family is remembered not only for their royal status, but also for their humanity, a family torn apart by events far beyond their control. The murder of Tsar Nicholas II and his family did not end their story. Instead, their legacy grew stronger over the years, turning them into symbols of a lost world and the tragic cost of revolution. The Romanovs had ruled Russia for more than 300 years. Their dynasty was a symbol of imperial power, tradition, and the old ways. Their death marked the violent end of this era, and many people around the world mourned their loss. In Russia, attitudes toward the Romanovs changed over time. After the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, more information about the family's fate became public. The bones of Nicholas, Alexandra, and 3 of their daughters were found and identified using DNA testing. Later, the remains of the other 2 children were discovered and confirmed. The Russian Orthodox Church canonized the Romanov family as martyrs in 2000. They were honored not only as rulers, but as faithful Christians who suffered for their beliefs. This recognition brought new respect and remembrance for the family within Russia. The story of the Romanovs continues to inspire books, films, and documentaries. Their lives, filled with privilege, tragedy, and mystery, captivate people worldwide. One of the most enduring myths is about Anastasia, the youngest daughter. For decades, people believed she had escaped the execution. Several women claimed to be Anastasia, the most famous being Anna Anderson. Though these stories were later disproven, they kept hope alive for many. The Romanov legacy is also a reminder of the dangers of political change and violence. Their story shows how revolutions can destroy families and change nations forever. Memorials like the Church on the Blood in Ekaterinburg now stand where the Romanovs were executed. Visitors come from all over the world to pay their respects and remember this family's tragic fate. Through the centuries, the Romanovs remain a powerful symbol of an empire lost, a family broken, and the lessons history teaches us about power, sacrifice, and humanity. More than 100 years later, the story of Tsar Nicholas II and his family still touches hearts around the world. They are remembered not just as rulers, but as people, a family torn apart by history. Their fate reminds us to think about the cost of revolution and war. It asks us to remember the lives behind the headlines. Every year, people visit places connected to the Romanovs. The Ipatiev house site in Ekaterinburg, the Church on the Blood, and museums in Russia and beyond. These places tell the story of a family that was once powerful, but met a tragic end. The Romanov story has also sparked many books, movies, and documentaries. It invites us to learn from the past and to reflect on how power, loyalty, and betrayal shape history. Though their lives ended in darkness, the memory of the Romanovs shines as a warning and a lesson for the future. Thank you for watching this journey into the last days of the Romanov family. If you found this story powerful, please hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries. What story should we cover next? Comment below. Your idea might be our next video. Until then, stay curious and check out more from our playlist.